So welcome friends. We will start in the next few seconds. My request is everyone please keep your microphones muted so that will help us get clarity on the call. Thank you for your help and your understanding. Yeah, so it's 11 and so let me wish all of you a very happy morning. And whichever part of the world you are joining in. So greetings for the day. And I hope you had a great day. And one more time requesting everyone to mute their microphones. And today I have the pleasure and privilege of hosting one of my mentors, one of the best leaders I have seen in my life. And I worked quite a bit in my life to have come across many leaders. But he is head and shoulders above the rest, right? And he is the one of the best you would want to learn from, right? And his name is John K. John. So thank you, John, for taking time out and agreeing to my request. And I'm sure you are going to just fall in love with him. He is awesome. He is just amazing human being, a great leader. And I've seen people literally eat out of the hands in the organization that I work for, right? So without much ado, I would want to hand it over to John. I would want to thank Ashish for his help in helping us go live on YouTube. And towards the end, we will also be circulating a feedback form just to understand that how do we utilize this platform so that we can be of help to you in terms of you becoming a better version of yourself. So check out for the feedback form that will be posted by Pallavi. Thank you, Pallavi, for helping me on that. Right, so she will be putting it on the chat towards the end of the call. Right, so thank you everyone for taking time out on a Saturday morning. And over to you, John. Thank you once again, John.
Thank you, AB. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
All right. It's my honor and privilege to be with each of you. And AB, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to each of us on the call today. AB and I work together, and I've known AB now for over a decade, and we've the best of friends, both inside office and outside. And so like he was so gracious with his words, I also learned so much from this one person called AB, and it's my privilege to be with you. So I don't know whether you caught that name, that name, John K. John. You will never forget me for life. If you forget everything that I speak to you today, you will never forget that name. Can you imagine growing up with a name like that? I mean, John K. John, give me a break. I haven't asked my dad and mom why did they ever call me that, but you know, I come from down south. I come from Kerala, and in the Christian fraternity down south, you pick up the name of the father and you pick up the name of your grandfather, and that's how I got those two Johns to my name. But imagine growing up with that kind of a name back in school. I mean, they call me John Square, John to the power of 2, King John II, John the Baptist. One guy even called me John Kills John. There was another guy who played spoonerism on my name and said Con J. Con. And so I had all these kinds of names. And so it was pretty difficult to sort of handle that in school. But there was one question for which I had no answer in school. And that question was, John, what would happen over time if you get married? And if you have a son, would you call him John K. John K. John? Would it be John Cube, John to the power of 3, King John III? What would that name be? So as I would look at these guys and say, guys, relax, I'm still only in school. Let me see if there's one man who's willing to give his daughter in marriage to me. Let me see if that girl will say yes. Let's see if we get married and if you have children. And if I have a son, then I'll call you guys and let you know what that name is going to be. So as time went by, one man decided to give his daughter in marriage to me. That girl said yes. We got married, and my first child was a son. We have 3 children. My first was a son. What do you think was the looming question when he was born and when I got to know that I'd become a father? So I was placed in Chennai there that time, and my wife was in Kerala. So I had to take a train and go to Kerala. And there was my son. what would I call him? That was a looming question over my head. So I was so excited. I called all my friends and said, hey, I become a dad. He's so cute. He's so lovely. He's so red. He's so pink. He's so white. Gave all these, paraphernalia on that kid. But there was a lot of question in terms of the name. So one guy who I spoke to had the audacity to look at me and say, John, don't worry about the name. Just call him Johnson. I said, man, not bad, man. You guys are thinking way beyond what I am also. But I said that name, Johnson, is a great name, but that's not going to be my son's name. I finally decided to call him Jonathan. So his name is Jonathan John, because Jonathan means God is given. And therefore, that's what he stands for, and that's what his name is. And things were pretty all right. I was working for this company called HCL, and somewhere around 2006, 2007, 2006 ending, I was sitting with my boss for an appraisal review, and he looked at me and he said, John, I don't know what to do with global training, because at that point in time, he was head of global training as well, and we wanted to make our presence felt in the globe. So he looked at me and said, John, I don't know what to do with global training. So I looked at him back and said, boss, do you think I can help you in some way? And then he looked at me and said, are you serious, John? Because this could displace you from where you are. I said, no problem. And within 2 months, I got my visa to go to the US along with my family. And so we leave Bangalore and go to the United States of America. We place ourselves in a place called New Jersey. And I sent Jonathan to school. So he goes to school all excited. And he comes back one day and he shares something which sort of gets me thinking, what did I do wrong? He comes to me one day and says, Dad, you know what? I said, what? You know, what's my name in school? I said, it should be Jonathan. He said, no, Papa, it's John. I said, say that again? How did that happen? Then he said, Papa, no, the short form of Jonathan here in the US is John. And I said, man, I took all the trouble in the world to give you a name which is different from my name. No, in my house, we have a peculiar problem. I didn't tell you that. My dad is also John K. John. So can you imagine the problem now? The grandfather is John K. John. The son is John K. John. Now in the US, the grandson also becomes John K. John. And God forbid if somebody calls us on the phone and says, can I speak to John? Which John? Tall, short, dark, handsome, grandfather? Who do you want to speak to? And by the time you clarify those questions, the caller is going nuts. So thankfully, we didn't stay in the US for too long. We came back in a matter of 2 years, and I then started working in India back again, worked for HCL for some time, and then joined Reliance. So now currently I work for Reliance. And so that's a little bit of my son. I've got 2 daughters. I won't get into their names and stuff like that because we don't have time. Let's move into the reason why we are here. We will jump into our session today, and I thought we will do something on eagle leadership, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at eagle leadership. What can we learn from this great bird? And I'm going to play this for you. And I'm presuming that all of you can see my slide. Can you all see my slide?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
All right, great. So now there should be some way that I can see the thumbnails because I'm not able to see any of you. Cool. Okay, let me go anyway. So eagle leadership, what are we going to talk about? Where I just want to start off by saying that, before we look at the first characteristics of this bird, most of you know that the national bird of India is not an eagle. The national bird of India is a peacock. And the national bird of India is peacock because peacock represents the DNA of India. Peacock is graceful. Peacock is beautiful. Peacock is colorful. Peacock is beauty. Peacock is lovely to look for the eye. Peacock is splendor. And all of that is a peacock. But when you look at the country called the United States of America, their national bird is not the peacock. Their national bird is an eagle. And there is a reason why eagle is there, because the founding fathers of America believed that eagle needs to be the bird, the national bird of the United States of America for a lot of reasons. We're going to look at a few as we look to time today. But our chairman, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, I've heard him say this live. He doesn't call. He loves the way he actually takes a break from the busyness of life is to go to Africa and go to the wild and see the wild animals and watch all of that and spend time there. He looks at the bird eagle. He doesn't call it a bird. He calls it an animal. He says eagle is not a bird. It's an animal because it's got so many distinct leadership characteristics. And I'm going to look at some of them in terms of what it is. I wish you have a pen and a paper. I wish you're taking down notes. I know this is getting recorded, but for us to do this effectively, we need to actually do some self-reflection. So I'm going to pause and give you time to reflect a few things for yourself, so that this becomes not just me speaking and you listening, but you actually talking to yourself as well. So the first quality of, we're going to look at 9 qualities. The first quality of an eagle is that an eagle is a dauntless bird. It's a dauntless bird. Now, can somebody unmute and tell me what do you mean by the term dauntless? What do you understand by the term dauntless? If you can unmute and tell me. I mean, you don't have to go to the dictionary to find that answer out right now. But if you don't know, no problem. The word dauntless means fearless.
The word fearless.
All right, thank you. The word dauntless is fearless. It is a fearless bird. It doesn't fear any creature. It doesn't fear any animal. It can even hunt the wildest animals down. You know, I don't know whether you've seen some of the videos. I hope to show you a couple of videos today, time permitting. You got to see some of these videos on National Geographic and even on YouTube. You'll probably see that this bird just does not fear any creature. It doesn't even fear man. I remember seeing this eagle somewhere in the United States of America swooping down and trying to take a kid from the park, you know, with its talons. With the parents around them. Of course, they got distracted, but it's a dauntless bird. It is not fearful of anything, of anybody. Now that is something about leadership. Leadership, you got to be fearless. You can't be a fearful person to lead. You got. I'm not saying that you got to be brash and you got to be proudful or proud, if that's a word. But you got to be dauntless. You got to be fearless. You got to be convinced that what you believe is what you believe, and you got to be convinced and be fearless about what you're convinced about. So dauntless means fearless. But there's one more characteristics of this bird, of dauntless. They say that the eagle is the only bird that has the ability to look into the sun directly with its eyes open. Now that is powerful. That is indeed powerful. The only bird that has the capacity. First of all, it flies high, and so it has the ability to fly really high and look directly into the sun with its eyes open. Now, you and I know that you can't look at the sun in its brightness with your eyes open. You can look at the sun 2 times a day. One when it's just rising and one when it's just setting. Those 2 times of the day, you could look at the sun and it's the most beautiful at that point of time. But any other point of time, if you look at the sun with your eyes open, you can forget your eyes. And so the question you need to ask and I need to ask is, the eagle does not look into the sun for nothing. It actually draws its power from looking into the sun. It draws energy by looking into the sun. And we're going to look at the self-reflection on what I spoke just now. And I've got the self-reflection questions here. The first question is, the eagle is statement is the eagle is a dauntless bird. In other words, it's a fearless bird. The question you need to ask is, are you a fearless manager? Are you a fearless leader, a fearless person? That's something that you need to ask for. So if you're writing, and if you're taking down notes, and if you want to ask this question to yourself, ask this question. Ask this question. Am I a fearless person? You know, when I was growing up, I had a lot of fears. I had a lot of inhibitions. I would never come to the front. I would always push somebody else. If I was given an opportunity, I would never take it up. I would always shy from going in front because something told me, John, you cannot go to the front and you will mess it up. And a lot of people don't do it. And when I was a child, I would just not do it. And I was fearful of a lot of things. I had a lot of complexes. I had a lot of complexes in the way I look, You know, people call me all kinds of things. You know, I had a strange look when I was young. Today, you might look at me and say, wow, what a handsome guy. Well, I was not like this a few years ago. I don't have a snapshot of my looks when I was much younger. But you see, I had complexes. And because of those complexes, I was fearful. But if you want to be a manager, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be an effective person in the world today, you and I will have to be fearless. So ask that question. Secondly, what are you fearful about? List 3 areas that you're fearful about now. What are you fearful about? List them down. You might say, John, I can't see a future. I'm not able to look beyond COVID. I lost my job. I was working. You know, all of a sudden they cut my job off. I'm fearful about my tomorrow. I'm fearful about my children. I'm fearful. I don't know what you're fearful about. Write them down. List them down. It's important to list them down because then you can address them. If you just keep it in the mind, it's not going to help. You got to act on it. You got to work on it. So the question that you need to ask after that, after writing them down, is what plans do you have to overcome this fear? You know? And, you know, you got to understand that fear is very, very gripping. And I don't need to tell you that almost every day in the papers or in the press or in the social media, we are looking at people who are calling it quits. They're just quitting because of fear. They're quitting because of anxiety. You and I cannot be fearful people because fear grips. And if you stay too long in fear, you will move into something called depression. And when you get to depression, if you don't seek for help, if you don't go to the right people, you will end up doing something that you shouldn't be doing. You will just look at going into the 10th, 11th floor of a building and then go and see whether you can check the laws of gravity. Don't do that. It will work. You got to do something before that. And so you got to ask this question, am I fearful of something? What am I fearful of? And I told you, the eagle is the only bird that has the ability to look into the sun directly with its eyes open and gets his energy for the day. So the question you and I need to ask is, where do you get your energy to go through the day? Life is tough. Life is not a bed of roses. And I always thought when I was growing up, life is a bed of roses. Because you see, my dad and my mom, they provided everything that I wanted. I didn't have a complaint. Not that we were very affluent. We were a middle-class family. But my dad worked hard. My mom gave me love. I didn't have the need to even ask. I just had to ask and they would provide. Not everything. Sometimes they would just say, no, you don't get it. But I had no complaints. But you see, as you grow up like that, all of a sudden, when you become responsible, all of a sudden you suddenly see, oh my God, I'm not getting what I need. How am I going to go get this? And life is tough. Life is not easy. Life is not for smooth sailing. The mountain is never smooth. A mountain is always rough. Even the most smoothest mountain is rough. Why? Because it makes that climbing that much more interesting. And so life is tough. So where do you get that energy? Where do you get that energy from? Is a question. You see, if you ask me that question, for me, my energy comes from my faith. My faith in my God. My faith is rock solid in, my foundation is in that faith. And when I run into trouble, when I am in trouble, I know where to go to. I know where to run. I know why prayer is important. I know why I need to talk to God every day. I can't be somebody who talks to God when I feel like, and when I run into trouble, when I go to God, God might just say, well, I'm a little busy today because somebody else has been praying almost every day to me. So let me just attend to that person. I'm not saying God will do that, but I'm just giving you an analogy. And so you got to know where you get your energy from. So let me move on to the second quality of this beautiful bird. Look at that eagle. Look at that close up. Look at its eyes. Look at its eyes. The other day I got a video of somebody doing a slow motion capture of how an eagle closes its eyes. Like how human beings close, we close our eyes, you know, every few seconds we close our eyes, we blink. They captured the blink of the eagle. It's just fascinating. If you've not seen it, try and Google that up. Or sorry, YouTube that up. It's fascinating. The way it has a thin membrane that just goes like a shutter, in front of its eyes. Close, open. Of course, it's not that slow. It was shot in slow motion so that you and I could see how it works. But let me give you a few things about the eagle. The eagle is a fascinating bird when it comes to vision. They see target miles away. Why are they able to do that? Because they say that the eagle has anywhere between 3 to 4 kilometer range in its vision when it's flying high. So when it's flying high in the air, in a 3 to 4 kilometer range, even if a snake moves or a rabbit moves or something moves on the ground, it's able to pick it up. And that's why they swoop. That's why they go down for the kill. They go for the kill because the vision that they have is tremendous. They just are able to see that with that kind of vision. And so what has that got to do with leadership is something that you may ask. Well, let's look at the self-reflection questions. The eagle has a 5-mile radius vision and you can go for a kill when flying high in the sky. How about you? Now, don't decide to kill anyone. I know many of us are wanting to do that in this lockdown time, but please don't do anything like that. The question is, are you able to look far into the future on what you want to become in life? Are you able to look beyond today? Many of us are looking either in life just for the today. A lot of people are looking at life as what happened yesterday. But many of us will need to look at what's going to happen tomorrow. Do we have that kind of vision? Do we have that kind of vision of looking deep into the future? Do you have that desire to be somebody in the future? If you're not going to have that, you'll just live by the day. You'll just live by the moment. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but you'll just go with the flow. Look at any leader who's done well in life. They would have had a vision. They would have had a vision. Can you imagine a Nelson Mandela, who for 27 years was locked up in a prison? 27 years. But in that 27 years, he didn't waste his time. He even studied law, wrote books, but he was preparing what he would do when he gets out of jail. 27 years, not wasted, invested. So what's the vision that you have for yourself? How do you want to finish your life? I know it's a little too early for some of you. Some of you are just starting life. But if you don't ask that question, you will just go with the flow. You will just go with the flow. What is your vision that you have for yourself? How do you want to finish your life? One of the brilliant exercises that I've done in my life, it comes from this famous author who actually talks about putting the end in mind, or begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey is his name. And he talks about this beautiful exercise where he says, why don't you just imagine that you're actually conducting your own funeral? I know that's a little scary. Conducting your own funeral, meaning to say you're dead. You're dead. And you're lying in that coffin. And you can see a lot of people crying around you. And, during funerals are times when people will come and speak about you. So when you have your loved ones come and speak about you, what are they going to say about you? When you have your boss come and speak about you, what's he going to say about you? He's going to say, good riddance to bad rubbish? Or he's going to say, I miss this guy. I miss this girl. What a girl she's been in my team. If I wanted anything, I would just run to them and they would always do it. What would your best friend say? What would your spouse say? What would your dad, your mom say at your funeral? It's a powerful exercise. And when you sit down and write that down, and if that was the last day of your life on earth, how would you want to finish? Would give you a great input into your life. I wish you would probably do that. Take some time, reflect on how you would finish. If tomorrow is your last day on earth, how would you want the world to respond to you as to who you are and what a difference you made in their life? If you're working, I want to ask you this question. What's the vision that you have for your function and your department? What's the vision that you have for your function, for your department, If you're not, there's this, I need to touch upon this. There's this whole myth about leadership, that leadership is only something that you do when you get to the top. That's a myth. You need to break it today. You don't lead because of a title. You don't lead because of a role or a position in the organization. You lead because you have leadership in you. Everybody who's listening to me today, you are a leader in some form or fashion. Look at your life. You might be the eldest in your family amongst the siblings. You got leadership. You might be the only son or daughter to your father and mother. You still have leadership because you can lead up to your dad and mom. You could be in your friend circle. You could still lead in that friend circle because now you have an opportunity to lead. You might be going to an organization and you might be one among thousands of people working in that company, but you still lead when you take the opportunity. You don't need the title, you don't need a position, you don't need a role. Leadership, as John Maxwell or Dr. John Maxwell put it, is simple. It's just one word, is influence. At any point of time, when you influence somebody, you are leading. You are leading. So I'm reminded of this, great, there's this husband and wife who suddenly decided to invite a lot of friends over to their house for lunch. And the husband wanted to just prove a point that, he is the head of the house. So when all the guests were in the house, he was in the living room with the guests and the wife was in the kitchen. So he made a loud statement and said, I am the head of the house. Unfortunately for him, the wife heard it from the kitchen and she said, yeah, I'm the neck. So, who's leading. So that's just pass. So I don't know why I said that, but just pass it. What vision do you have for your function and department? And what vision do you have for your family, spouse, and children? What's your vision for your family? Sometimes what happens is, that's why I love AB, certain things that he does. It's just very few people who does things like what AB does. AB's got a vision for his family as well. And as I speak, I don't have a vision for my family. Let me confess. I have a vision for myself. I have a vision for my children and my wife, but I don't have a vision together as a family, which is written and which is committed to. But AB has that. What's your vision for your spouse? What's your vision for your children? Do you want just them to float around and just do what they want? I've heard this, from my boss, Anand Pillai. He basically made a statement which is fascinating. He said 90% of the world population live for 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons. 1 spouse, 2 children, a 3-bedroom apartment, and a 4-wheeler. That's what 90% of the world population live for. And when they get that 1, 2, 3, 4, they're the most happiest people. They think they've achieved a vision. That's not vision. That's limiting your vision. Anybody over a period of time will get all 4. What vision are you talking about? Then they worried about the vision for their children on this based on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and their grandchildren based on the 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all his vision. Is that life? Can you imagine what South Africa would have been if Nelson Mandela did not have that vision? What would have happened to Calcutta if Mother Teresa did not have that vision? What would have happened to India if Mahatma Gandhi did not have a vision? What's your vision? What is your vision? That's the second leadership quality. Let's move on. The third leadership quality is that an eagle is a tenacious bird. And when I say tenacious, you'll probably connect it to the word tenacity. And that's exactly what it is. It is tenacious, meaning it is a bird that will never give up. It does not give up easily. Leaders do not give up easily. Leaders do not give up easily. If you look at all the big wigs of the United States of America and the corporate world, most of them dropped out from great education or education and started their businesses in garages. But they became leaders because they didn't give up. They had the spirit to win. They wanted to win. And that's why you see, when you see some of these qualities of an eagle, you will see that in the DNA of the people of that country as well. Tenacious, it doesn't give up very easily. But they also say that eagle is the only bird. When every other bird and every other creature, when there is a thunderstorm, when there's a storm, when there is thunder and lightning, you will see every other bird and animal will get into cover. They'll run for hiding, they'll get to cover because they know now there's something happening. They can figure out there's something happening in the world around them that they need to take cover. But the eagle is the only bird that cuts through the storm, through the clouds, and flies higher than the storm. What kind of a bird are you? What kind of a person are you? Are you somebody who runs into trouble or flies higher than the trouble? Tenacious. Let's look at some reflection questions. The eagle is the only bird that loves the storm and flies directly into the storm. Every other bird or animal would run for cover and safety from the storm. I'm sure you have pets in your house. The minute there is a thunder, lightning, check out what the behavior of a cat, of a dog. What happens? How about you? How do you handle storms in your life? Do you run into the storm or do you run away from a storm? Now, let me make that practical for you. How do you handle problems? Storms, some problems are storms. Not all problems are storms. Some problems can be a storm. It sort of takes you by surprise. You know, I listened to a preacher, his name is Bishop T.D. Jakes, and he says this: you are either in a problem, or you just got out from a problem, or you're getting into a problem. Either way, all of us are in some problems right now. As I'm speaking, some of us are in a problem, some of us just came out from a problem, and for some of us, we're getting into a problem. So brace up. How are you going to handle that? And so if you're going through a storm today in your life, what steps are you planning to take and handle and fly into the storm? Or will you even fly into the storm? And I want to tell you that, you know, like I said, I was very timid. I was very shy. I lacked confidence when I was young. You know, storms just took me by surprise. As I was young, when I was younger, storms it was too much for me to handle. I'm alive today because of the grace of God. I'm alive because of my faith. I'm alive because when I couldn't handle it, somebody helped handle those storms in my life. And that's why faith becomes very important. You see, life, like I said, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. And there are times when you'll say, I just want to give up. You know, in 2015, I went to depression. While at work, I went through depression. I went through depression for almost 8-9 months. I was losing weight by the hour. I was losing kilos. I was losing weight. People looked at me and said, John, what's happening to you? They thought I was sort of trimming down. I was losing weight for the 6-pack, 9-pack, whatever. But I was under depression. But faith got me out of it. And so you got to know how to get out of a storm. You know, you need to know how to get out of a storm. And if you're in a storm today, speak to somebody. The best thing is to speak to somebody. Have the confidence in somebody and just open up to that person, believing that that person will keep it to just themselves, and that you will be accountable to that person will be accountable to you. Because you see, when you open up, 50% of your problems, it just comes up because you've just opened up. Let's go to my favorite, nurturing. And nurturing is fascinating because there's so many points that I have to cover here. I hope I'm good on time. Nurturing is fascinating stuff of an eagle. Now, you should probably know that the eagle never builds its nest in shallow places. Like how it flies high above all other birds, the eagle is also very careful in building its nest in the tallest tower, in the highest pole of a particular region, or in the tallest mountain of a particular place. Why? Because it's wise. It doesn't want any other creature coming there to check on the chicks. It's very, very, very nurturing. So it builds its nest in the tallest place, and the only person who can come there is another eagle. So sometimes the mate comes. That's it. Nobody else is welcome. If anybody else is welcome, it's inviting trouble. It can tear the guy up in a matter of seconds. And so it builds its nest in the tallest region. And I was hearing a lady say how she did some research, and they say that the eagle builds its nest in 4 different layers. 4 different layers. The first layer that you can see from this picture here is a lot of soft hay and grass, dry grass, grass that is gone dry right now. And then it's very cushioned for the little baby eaglet. You know, it's comfortable, the grass and the hay is there. And just beneath that grass and hay are twigs. And you can see to the left of the screen, you'll see some twigs are also there. Now the twigs are there so that it can sort of support the whole nest. Because if it's built only on hay, it'll all fall down. So it builds it on twigs, broken twigs. Then the third layer is built, it's got some twigs, but those twigs have got sharp edges. It need not be thorns, but it's got sharp edges. And the last layer is a lot of stone and gravel. And you may wonder why the eagle builds its nest in 4 different layers. Let me tell you. So the mother and the father eagle will constantly feed the chicks. And you probably see that the eagle is not a bird like the hen or the duck that gives birth to multiple chicks. You know, it's got 2. At best, it's got 2 or maybe 3, nothing more than that. And it nurtures its young ones one at a time. And so what happens is, you know, it nurtures these little ones, it feeds the little ones, and the baby eagle starts to grow. And as they eat and begin to grow, they put on weight. And once they put on weight, it's no more the cushion effect that it had when it was small, because now it's the weight of the bird hits the twig and it makes it a little uncomfortable. And after some more eating and some more weight, the weight now hits the twig with the thorny parts or the rough edge parts, and it makes it even more comfortable. And now it's put on so much weight, it becomes like an adult eagle, and it now hits the rocks, it hits the stone, it hits the gravel, and it's an absolute state of discomfort. And without the eagle telling the eaglet anything in English or French or Latin or Greek, the baby eaglet understands that I need to get out of my nest. That's what my dad and mom is telling me. Picture that for how a human being responds to our children. I don't know how many of you are parents. I am a dad. When my little daughter, especially my little daughter, I'm not that for the other 2, but when my little daughter asks me anything, even before she finishes the sentence, the product is there. I know it's a wrong thing to do. We don't feed them beyond the capacity. You got to sort of make it uncomfortable for them to stay in the levels of comfort. And that's what the eagle is doing with the eaglet. And now the baby eaglet has gone so uncomfortable that it's telling the parents, okay, you've given me the message, now let me fly. And it goes to the edge of the nest to try to fly. It looks down, it almost faints looking at the height, because it's at a height that it's never seen before and it's never flown before. And as it's sort of staying at the edge of the nest and deciding what to do, I can't fly. I don't know what I'll do if I jump out because I can't bear the height. The father eagle or the mother eagle comes and gives it a nudge. And from that height, the baby eagle starts to tumble and tumble and tumble. Now it's calling its dad, its mom, it's calling its brothers, sisters by name. Nobody is hearing it. Just before it lands down and crashes with a thud, the father eagle comes and picks it up and puts it back in the nest again. That was induction day 1. Next day, it's doing the same thing. He said, oh my God, how do I fly? It's spreading its wings. It's just not able to get out of the nest. It's wondering whether it should take flight or not. And now one more nudge. Now it's tumbling, it's falling, and all this tumble and fall, and it's spreading its wings and trying to fly. Blood is gushing to every part of its body. Every part of its muscle is being used. As it tumbles, it's trying to fly. It's not able to fly. Just before it comes crashing down, the father eagle comes and picks it up one more time and puts it back in the nest again. And it'll happen and happen and happen till the time the baby eaglet gets that wind factor and then flaps its wings a couple of times and then soars in the breeze. I don't know whether you heard me, but I'm going to make a point as we do the self-reflection. Just look at it. How is your leadership of people to whom you're responsible? Are you able to devote quality time with those who report to you or have influence upon? Now, this is a point that I want to ask you. Do you nurture anybody at office if you're in a responsible position? I know a lot of children who they're eldest in the family and they take on the responsibility of nurturing their siblings beautifully well. I can't say that. I've got a younger sister, but I can't say that of myself. There are some of them who beautifully do that nurturing. My question to you is, if you're in a position of leadership at office, or if you're in a position of leadership in your college, are you nurturing somebody? Are you investing into that person? And I spoke about this. The eagle has 4 different layers. What is your management leadership style at home and office? How are you nurturing people? How are you nurturing people at home? How are you nurturing people at office? Are you investing into your children one-on-one? Because you see, each of them are different. What I love about the eagle is it nurtures its young ones one at a time. It's not like a hen and a duck that takes its young ones together. It's mass induction. That's what many organizations do, mass induction. This induction is one-on-one, one-on-one personal time. Are you spending time like that with anybody? Are you nurturing anyone currently and giving them individual attention? If yes, name them now. Write them in the book. Or you're making a decision today and saying, I want to invest in so-and-so. I want to nurture this person. I'm making a decision today to nurture into this particular person. Write the name of that individual and say, I'm going to spend quality time with this person. Even as I'm doing this, my mind is saying, I'm going to do something when it comes to nurturing one of my children. And so do that. Do that. Nurturing. And you would have probably heard me say this, the nurturing part of the baby eaglet is primarily done by the father eagle. It's done by the father eagle. And so it's a big question for dads. It's a big question for fathers. Are you nurturing your young ones? Do you have young ones that you're nurturing? Or are you so busy at work that you've outsourced that nurturing to the mother? Are you saying that you're so busy at work that mom will do most of it? I'll just be there in times of trouble. I don't think that's the model that we need to follow. Unfortunately, that was a model that was followed in the West. I don't know whether you've heard of this term called the latchkey kids. Latchkey kids. What are the latchkey kids in the United States of America and the most developed nations of the world, maybe UK as well? At some point of time, both the parents decided that they had to earn an income to provide for the family. And so both of them would have to go to work. And so the kids are all by themselves. So after sending the kids to school, the dad and mom would just go to work. And they would then keep the key to the house under the mat, under the carpet, by the side of the window. They can afford to do that in their countries and go to work. And then when the kids come back from school, they are coming into a home where no dad, there's no mom. Danger. Why? Because that was also the explosion for independence. I could do anything that I want to do. If I'm not responsible enough as a child, I would just do anything that I want to do. That was a house absolutely open for anybody and everybody. My friends can come, we can check out and do whatever we want. And if you have internet and if you have everything at your disposal, you can just have fun till your parents come back home. And so the latchkey kids, problem. How are you nurturing your children? How are you nurturing a loved one? Who are you nurturing at the office? So let me just pause for now and just come back to you and just see whether I'm okay with respect to speed. Am I going okay? AB, is everything all right?
Absolutely, John. Super. Absolutely.
All
I'm
right.
making notes on
Yeah,
my
because I'm
phone.
not able to see any of you when I'm doing this share. So, okay.
But
I hope you're taking
everything.
down notes, and I hope we can probably have some questions at the end of the session. So let me go back and continue from where I left. So that's nurturing, and let's move on. The next one is an eagle, like I said, is a high flyer. It's a high flyer. It flies high in the air, to a point that at some point of time, they say that it can fly up to about 10,000 feet in the air. 10,000 feet is quite high. Because at some point of time, if you keep watching an eagle with bare eyes, you'll not be able to spot it, because after some time, your eyes will just not be able to spot an eagle. It's flown even higher. But the beauty of the bird called the eagle is that it has the capacity to come down, swooping down almost so fast. It can fly high in the sky, and when required, it can come down as well. Now, that is a fantastic leadership quality. That is a fantastic leadership quality. Why? Because you see, there are a lot of leaders. There are a lot of leaders who are very strategic. They think the big picture. They think vision. They think strategy. But they just cannot become operational. They cannot fold their hands, roll up their sleeves, and come down and work at an operational level. But you see, great leaders are not leaders who do one of the two, but who has the ability to do both. Ability to strategize, ability to cast a vision. But when required, I can roll up my sleeves and come down and work with you as well at an operational level. That is a great quality. Look at any good leader. They will not be a cabin manager. I know a lot of people who love cabins. They love their cabins. They just work out of their cabin. They never get out of the cabin. They stay in the cabin. They expect people to come to the cabin. They expect everything to happen at the cabin. But an effective leader is somebody who gets out of their cabin and be with their people. And I think it was Ken Blanchard, Dr. Ken Blanchard, who termed it, he said, leadership by walking around. Leadership by walking around. You don't become a leader by sitting in a cabin. You become a great leader when you leave your cabin and start walking around and meeting with people and high-fiving people, speaking into them and say, hey, what's up with that latest project? What are you doing? Do you need any help? Should I sit with you? That's when there's a connect. That's when the connect happens. So ask yourself, are you a cabin manager or a participating manager? Now, I know for many companies, they're breaking down cabins. Even in our company, they just took a decision. Let's break out every cabin. We don't need cabins. Cabins destroying this connect happening. You got to just sit in the open. Anybody and everybody sits in the open. The manager sits in the open. The leader sits in the open. The head of the function sits in the open. Everybody has access to anybody at any given point of time. Now, that is with respect to cabins, but I'll still ask you the question, are you a participating manager? You can still have cabins that are broken down, but if your mindset is a cabin leader, it doesn't matter whether there are cabins or not. You'll still behave like one. And so ask yourself this question, am I a cabin manager or a participating manager? Do I get to be working with the team, especially when they are in trouble, when I know that they need me? Am I participating with them? What kind of leader do you like to follow? One who sits in orders or the one who comes down to your level and connects? I'm sure all of us would probably choose the second, the latter, because that's how I need somebody who can help me when I'm in trouble. I don't need somebody who will give me orders from the top. I want somebody to come down, sit with me, connect with me. He or she just may not even have answers to what I'm going through, but just the sheer fact that the person's presence is there makes a lot of difference. Talking of Reliance, I can think of a couple of incidences. What happened to the Patal Ganga, the floods. Leadership just arrived. They didn't leave it to the people to handle the issue. They came in, they got into the water, they rolled up their pants, they rolled up their sleeves. They got involved in the issue of managing the stuff in the floods. So what kind of a leader are you? Who do you like to follow? And there's one point that you need to know. There's one bird. Now I told you it's a dauntless bird, but there's another bird that the eagle is worried about, and that bird is called a condor. A condor apparently has a wingspan of 9.8 feet. Now, if you can imagine what 9.8 feet is, my God, that's quite a wingspan. 9.8 feet wingspan, it's 12 kilos in weight, and it's a scavenger. What am I trying to tell you? If an eagle can be shredded to pieces by a scavenger called the condor, if the eagle lowers its altitude of flight, because you see, because of the near wingspan and the real weight of this bird, it won't be able to take the altitude of an eagle. But if the eagle drops its altitude below 10,000 feet and flies at the same altitude of a condor, the condor can attack it and kill it to pieces. What am I trying to tell you? In your work and wherever you are, never drop your levels of excellence. Always stay at the top. Always be the best that you can be. I'm not saying you be your best, don't be the best. Don't compete with somebody to be the best, but be your best. Be the best that you can be. Be the better version, like AB said, be the better version of who you are yesterday, today. Don't drop your levels of excellence, because when you drop the levels of excellence, the condor can attack you. Now, if you like it or not, in every organization, there are condors. Now, please don't look at anybody on the call. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people who work with you, people who live beside you, your neighbors, even within your friend circle, there could be condors who are just waiting to nibble you, just pull your leg, because they don't like the height at which you're flying. What should I do? Never drop my levels of excellence. Keep getting higher, keep getting better, sharpen my skills, sharpen my areas of excellence, keep getting better and better and better at what I'm doing. Because at that point of time, you'll be the best that you can be. And ultimately, who knows, you could be the world's best, right? But always be the best person that you can be, and the best version of yours. Let's move on. The grip of an eagle. Fascinating grip. Look at that fish. That fish is gone. That fish can forget. It's gone. It's lunch, it's dinner, it's brunch, whatever. The eagle has picked it up with its talons. You see the nails have gone. You can see the left foot of the eagle. Can you see the back talon? Now, you can't see it with the right foot. The back talon's nail is the sharpest of the, and once that goes into the prey, you can forget it. You can forget even getting out of the grips of the eagle. The grip is solid. It's a vice-like grip. And the same is true with its beak. I don't know whether you had parrots when you were growing up as a pet. I know a lot of people grew parrots in their homes, and I would love to go and see a parrot in somebody's home. I used to love pets. We didn't have a pet except a cat or a dog once in a while, but parrots, they're fascinating. I mean, beautiful green, lovely red eyes, a lovely red ring around their neck, and a red beak. And I would be fascinated looking at a parrot. And once in a while, I would just give my finger. And the bite of the parrot on that finger, you could see heaven and earth together at that point of time. Now, I want to multiply that 100 times over is the bite of an eagle. The bite and the grip of an eagle can tear into the toughest skin, even the roughest skin of a crocodile, the roughest skin of an anteater or a reptile in the wildest forest of Africa. It can tear it up within a matter of a few seconds. It can just tear it up. Grip of an eagle, solid. But what has that got to do with leadership? Let's look at the self-reflection questions. What about you? What is your strongest domain? Where are you investing your time? Do you know your strengths? Do you know what you're good at? Do you know how God has wired you so uniquely? with one or two strengths that nobody else in this world can do it as good as you. What is your strongest area? Where are you investing your time? You see, let me give you a small research. I'm a Gallup coach, and the research says that everybody, even everybody on this call, you have been given a talent and a strength that when you invest in the talent over a period of time, it becomes a strength. And so you have that in you. The question is, many of us have no clue what my strengths are. No clue. People are living clueless. Many of them pick jobs up because of the CTC. People are picking up jobs of another company because that guy is paying you $100,000 more. That is a wrong way of picking up a job. You got to pick up a job where you know you will do well because you've got strengths, which, let me retrace that. Actually, you can pick up any job. But when you use your talents that God has blessed you with at any job, you can actually be successful. That's number one. Number two, there are areas of passion. Passion is birthed. Passion is given. Passion kicks in. And then you know that you're passionate in this area and that you want to work in that area, or you want to perform in that area. And when you work in your area of passion, and when you have the skill and knowledge, and when you invest in that over a period of time, the combination of the two is devastating, positively devastating. What is your strength? This is a point that I want to talk about when it comes to grip. You see, grip also talks about certain values and principles in life that you hold so dear. They're so deep convictions that whatever come your way, I will not do it. I will not do it. I will not fudge. I will not claim wrong bills. I will not say that this was an expense and claim there because it was there for me to claim. If I didn't expend it, I will not claim it. I will not lie. I will be a man, a woman of integrity. I will not talk. I will not talk behind somebody. I will not gossip behind somebody's back. Now, these are values and principles. What are yours? That's grip. Because when you're convinced deeply about it, you will live by it. People will see that in your life. That becomes a brand for you. It becomes your personal brand. Because people know, go to this guy, he will never backbite. He will never gossip about you. Unfortunately, we are not able to say this about today's corporate world. How unfortunate that is. What are your values and what are your principles? What is that grip that you have about the deep convictions of your life? Write them down. Write them down. And you can probably, I don't know whether they have time for this, but you can write one instance where you used your value to make critical decisions in your life. What decisions helped you when you were confronted with an issue, but the values came to your help? When your values just took over. And we can go back into our lives and then look at life. And I'm sure there are. Let me give you an example from one of my friends. This girl was actually working, and this is much, much younger, probably in our early 20s. She's actually working in a school as a teacher in the admin office. And the school was going to get into an audit shortly. And so everybody was sprucing up everything and keeping it ready. There was one particular thing that the school had to hide from the auditors. Otherwise, the license would be canceled. And so this girl who I knew was actually in charge of that particular function or department. And the school representative went to that girl and said, you need to hide this from the audit so that they would not catch you at this point and make it a non-conformity. And she wrestled with this for a couple of days, and she was very uncomfortable. And she went to the principal and said, sorry, I won't be able to do that. And the pressure was on the principal. And so the principal put the pressure back on this girl. And at one point of time, this girl said, sorry, sir, I don't think I'll be able to do it. And then the principal, I think, looked at her and said, well, if that's not possible, then the only choice for you is to leave the school. To which she said, yeah, I'd love to leave the school. She lost a job in India, in a school that was not so very great. Not so very great in a school back in South India. But she took a stand to that value and that principle, and she didn't compromise. Today, for the last 30 plus years, she lives happily in the United States of America. I'm not saying that everybody who does this gets a chance to go to the US. What I'm trying to say is, when you live by values and principles, there is a reward. There is also a consequence first for standing up to that, but there is a reward as well. What is your value? And I'll show you a video maybe a little later. Maybe once I finish, I'll show you all the videos together. Let's move on. Or rather, let me just pause here for a bit. Let me see if people are listening to me. Did anybody notice anything happen? You can unmute yourself and speak.
You missed the point 7.
Who's that? Who said that?
Pradeep Pathak.
Pradeep Pathak. Thank you, Pradeep. All right. Yes, you're right. I skipped point number 7. 7th is my last point, and I'll come back to that in a second. So good. You're all listening to me. I'm glad that you're listening to me. All right. Let me go back and share the screen, and we will look at point number 7 a little later. Let me just go back to the 8th point. The 8th point is eagle is an active bird. What am I meaning by that? Eagle does not live on dead things. Eagle is not like a scavenger. You will rarely see an eagle living on dead things. Now, the problem with us is in India, we haven't seen an eagle. We've seen the variant of an eagle. It's in the same family of an eagle. What we see in India and very much in our towns and cities is not an eagle. What we see is a kite. Kite is a variant of the family of eagles. If you and I need to see an eagle, we need to go to the wild. We'll need to go to some part of the United States of America. We might have to go to some parts of the deepest parts of the jungles in India for us to see an authentic eagle, right? Eagle are not like scavengers. They don't like to live on dead things. And I love this. You know why? Because they love to keep hunting. They love to keep having the challenge of chasing a rabbit. And maneuvering with the rabbit before it pounds on it. They love the energy. They love the passion. They love the zeal of hunting a snake and picking it up from the ground and taking it to another orbit. And making sure that the snake, which is the most powerful thing on the earth, will become absolutely nothing in the air, because now gravity just works against the snake. And I'm going to show you a video of how an eagle holds a mountain goat and does not give up. Active. It doesn't feed on dead things. It always loves to catch its prey fresh. But what does that got to do with leadership? The question is, do you live by past glory or on past glory? Are you looking at doing new things today? And this is what I got from my friend AB. He asked me this question once. When was the last time you tried doing something new for the very first time? When was the last time you tried doing something new for the very first time? You know, human beings are so comfortable doing the same thing over and over again. You know, check out your lockdown days. I was just talking to my mother today. I can't believe the speed at which every week is going by. Have you noticed that? The week is just flying. I can very vividly remember last Saturday, last Sunday, and all of a sudden it's Saturday again. Time's just flying by. The question you need to ask is, did you do anything new after the lockdown? Or are you the same guy, girl, doing the same thing every day? Life can be boring when you look at it that way. You got to try to see doing new things, new things. When was it that you actually got a new idea at work? When was the last time you actually said, boss, I have 5 good new ideas. I want to share that with you. And I wish that you have a boss who will listen to all 5. The other thing that you need to ask is, are there dead things in your work life, family life, personal life that you want to drop? They're right now maybe decaying or even stinking. Drop them and look at new things that you want to accomplish. Many times we are actually held by the past. We are held by the dead things of the past. We're looking at saying, oh my God, how did she say this thing to me? And that's now 20 years ago. And we hold on and holding on to that. Some of us are battling this thing. It's there in the mind. I was talking to somebody very close the other day, and she was telling me something that happened in school 50 years ago, maybe 45 years ago, still bothering her. And how she dropped it one day because it made absolute sense to do it. What are the dead things that you're carrying on? What is that dead thing that you're carrying that is making you ineffective, that is making you unproductive? It's time to drop them and to do new things. New things. Ninth one. I love this. An eagle is a loyal bird. It's committed to its partner for life. And some of you young guys are saying, John, say something else. No. Very important point. An eagle is loyal to its mate. Once it gets its mate, that mate is for life. And you're saying, John, we're not living in those times today. Well, I don't think so. Don't just take anything that comes from the West and make it your own. You see, culturally, we are very different. Don't just lap up everything that's coming to the West. Now, I'm not saying that there is nothing from the West that we can't learn. There's something superb. There are lots of things great that's coming from the West. Even what we're doing right now is from the West. The ability to connect digitally, fabulous. Take the good things, but just don't take anything and everything, because you need to check it with your culture. You got to check it with your society. You got to check it. When was the time that India started leading the rest of the world with good things that India has, rather than succumbing to the things that the West is throwing at us? You see, if you really look at your life, and if you really look at your dad, your mom, they had differences of opinion. They had fights, they had arguments, but they stayed together. They worked their marriage together for the benefit of themselves and their children. Live-in is not okay. Live-in is not our culture. You got to be loyal to your mate. You have to have a commitment to your mate. You have to have a covenant with your mate. You got to say, I am yours and you are mine, and the both of us will live together. Difficult sometimes, but again, you need to have that power from within to handle it. I know all marriages are not easy. I know it's tough, but you got to have the commitment with your partner. But let me go beyond the partner. When it comes to leadership, are you loyal to your spouse if it's applicable to you? How about your boss at work, your organization? You know, sometimes we got to be very careful what we speak. And sometimes we tend to talk about our bosses and we put him down or put her down. But that amounts to gossip, actually. How about your organization? Are you talking good about your company? Are you adding value to your company? Are you adding value to your boss? Or are you constantly complaining about your boss at work? And sometimes you and I probably do it. And now you got to ask this question, how does it help? Tell him directly or tell her directly how the person can be much different. Some of you might say, John, that could be famous last words. Well, you haven't tried. Try it. And you're saying, no, I don't want to be the guinea pig. Well, fair enough. But let me give you a secret. When you're working for a company, majority of the waking hours of the day, you are in that company. And if you don't have a great relationship with the boss of the company that you're working for, that can be terrible. That can be really terrible. So work that relationship. And I say 50% of that relationship is with you, 50% is with the boss. So you do your best 50. Leave the rest 50 with your boss for your boss to work, but you give your best 50% to the boss and add value to the boss. Do something that will have that equation going. How about being loyal to your neighbors, your friends, your dad, mom? How often do you spend quality time with your dad, with your mom? Do you take them out often? Do you spend, of course, now with lockdowns, everything is a mess, but it's even more greater now that you can spend quality time with your dad and mom. How have you spent quality time with your dad and mom in these past 3-4 months? Or have you been so busy on social media with your friends and everything else at work that dad and mom is just the passing? How about your neighbors? Have you seen them? Have you gone out? I know that everybody is worried now, including neighbors. I've seen strange behaviors. But let's look at what happens when things are normal. Have you invited your friends over to your homes? Have you gone to your friend's house without making an appointment? Can you go to a friend's house without making an appointment? I mean, can you see how things have moved over time? When I was growing up, I never used to call my friend and say, hey, Machan, can I come home? Okay, Machan is from South India. Can I come home? I would just walk into his house any time. He could walk into my house at any time. That's how close we were. And today, if I have to go to my friend's house, I would have to call the person to find out if the person is there, to find out if everything is okay for me to walk in. I know it's a nice thing, but don't make it so formal. Are there any relationships that you need to set right? Are you disloyal in any of your relationships, personal or official? Loyalty today is a premium. Loyalty is a premium. It's not easily available. Loyal guys, loyal girls, loyal husbands, loyal wives, loyal bosses, loyal employees, difficult. But that's what we need to learn from the eagle. I want to be a loyal person in my life to people around me. At any point of time, if anybody wants a shoulder to cry on, if anybody who wants help, I put my hand up. I'll be loyal. If anybody wants to share some secret with me and it has to remain with me, I'll put my hand up. When I say that, I'm not saying that I'm the guy. I'm saying that is what loyalty is all about. We need to be loyal people. We need to be loyal people. We need to raise up a group of people who will change our society. Nothing will change, as Mahatma Gandhi said, if the change doesn't happen from me. Nothing is going to change in India. We'll always point a finger at somebody and say, you guys have to change, you guys have to change. Nothing will change till I decide to change. When I change, it changes my ecosystem. And that impacts the people in my ecosystem. They begin to change. And then you'll see change being evident. Otherwise, no change can happen. Loyalty. And of course, the last part and the last point is this whole concept of vitality. You know, they say that eagle is a bird that lives as long as a human being. 70 to 80 years old is the average age of an eagle's life cycle. It lives 80 years, say. But somewhere in the 45th year of an eagle, or 40 to 45, the eagle develops something called a midlife crisis. Very much like a human being. It goes through a midlife crisis, like how human beings go through midlife crisis. Now, if you're not at that age, you will not know what I'm trying to tell you. But let me share what happens to human beings before I share what happens to eagles. The human beings go through midlife crisis. All of a sudden, they question their tomorrows. They look at life and say, oh my God, half my life is over. I wonder what my other half is going to be looking like. And so all of a sudden you're growing up and you say, oh my God, my son's about to get married. My daughter's getting about the age to get married. I wish I get the right spouse. All of a sudden you look at 45 and saying, oh my God, I only have 10 more years before I retire. What am I going to do after retirement? All of this just lands on the guy, on the girl. And then you're getting into a midlife crisis. How do you handle it? How do you handle a midlife crisis? Let me show you. Now, this part of the eagle, and quite a few others, a lot of people critique it and say it's not true of an eagle. I probably accept that. But I like the analogy. And let me share the analogy for you. They say when an eagle goes through a midlife crisis, and they'll tell you the reasons why it goes through a midlife crisis. The eagle goes through a midlife crisis because it's been flying so high in the sky and looking at the sun directly with its eyes open, it develops something called a cataract. It loses the vision. It loses the vision. It has a problem with its eye. It loses the vision of a 5 mile or a 5 kilometer range vision for a hunt. That's problem number one. What is problem number two? Because it's not able to see now at 10,000 feet, it brings its altitude to 3,000 feet, because now it's not able to see. So unless it comes to 3,000 feet, it's not able to see a rabbit move. It's not able to see a snake move. Now it's great. I'm able to see a snake move. I'm able to see a rabbit move, but it's also able to see a condor move or a condor move. And that's trouble for an eagle, because if it doesn't raise its altitude again, the condor is going to attack it and kill it, shred it to pieces. It's got a problem now. It's life or death for an eagle. And because it's been flying into every storm, and it's come into the city or the town, some of its elements of its wings and its feathers are becoming loose and useless. And because it's been hunting for 45 years with its talons and with its beak, what is happening is the talons and the beak starts to bend inwards. And so the grip is not like before. It's not like what it was when I was at 10. It's not what it was when I was 25 at my peak of my youth. I'm not able to pick up that rabbit. When I pick it up, it just slips off my talons. I'm not able to tear up the skin, the roughened skin. So all of this results into a midlife crisis of an eagle. And I'm told this is a part that some people critique. And they say that the eagle gets into something called isolation. It's like a lockdown. Oh, wow, I didn't see it from this perspective. It gets into a lockdown all by itself. Sometimes the mate is there, but it gets into a lockdown. And in that lockdown period, it goes looking for two things. It goes looking for honey. It goes looking for running water. If it sees a place where there's running water and it's got honey, it is going to do a few things, which is going to be the most hurting for the eagle. It goes into a period of isolation, and then it looks for a rock or a surface that is hard. And the first thing it does is it goes to this rock and its hard surface and bangs its beak against that rock. Now, if you want to know what it's doing and how painful it is, stop listening to me and go to the closest wall next to you and just bang your nose against it. Don't do it. It breaks its beak and it's intensely painful. It goes through the first pain by breaking its beak. But because its beak is broken and it can't live on flesh which it needs to tear, it lives on honey and lives on water. And sometimes the mate might just come and give it some pieces of meat which are soft that it can feed on. And over a period of time, I don't know how long the isolation period is, but as the eagle stays in this isolation period, living on honey and water and whatever the mate brings, the beak starts to growing back again to its original shape and form. And when it grows into the original shape or form, the next thing that the eagle does is even more painful. It looks at its body, every feather in its body that is loose, that is wasteful, that is not productive. It starts to pulling it out. Now, for us to know how painful that is, I don't know if there's a neighbor sitting next to you, pull the neighbor's hair. No. Pull your own hair. When you pull your own hair, you know how painful that is. The next thing it does is even more painful. It looks at its talons, it looks at its feet, and every talon that's bent inwards, which is not getting it to grip its prey. It looks at its talons and it's pulling out that talons. And for that, you got to pull your nail out to know what that pain is. An eagle goes through extreme pain in its midlife crisis. Now it's got a new beak. It's got feathers which are productive. It's got talents that are beginning to grow back again. It's got one more problem, and that's the problem of its sight. So it goes one more time higher into the sky, cuts the clouds, goes higher than 10,000 feet, lets the sun's rays come and kill the cataract, and it breaks the cataract for it to get fresh vision. Now it's able to see that same 5-kilometer range of a rabbit or a snake move, and it goes for the hunt again. It lives the rest of the 45 years like that young eagle back again. Vitality. It lives a full life, all of its life. That's how an eagle lives in its midlife crisis. I wish all people who go through midlife crisis take some lesson out of that. Have you given up on life? Is it very demanding? Is there anything that I can learn from what an eagle does when it faces its most precarious moments of life? Why does somebody commit suicide? Why do people just give up? Why do people go into depression? I don't think I have the answers for anything, but I'm saying, don't give up on life. If an eagle, a bird, can look at his life and say, this is not the end of my life. I have another 45 years. I know that I have another 45 years. Let me do something to live that life most productive, and goes through extreme pain to come out of it. What can you and I do to live a life that's demanding? What decisions do you need to take to handle your midlife crisis if you're in one now? If you're not in one, write this down. If you're not in one, keep this recording in some place in your computer, that when you get there, you listen to it and you get inspiration from the life of an eagle. An eagle lives all of its life to its full. So we looked at those 9 qualities. I'm going to put them all down. Dauntless, looking at the sun in the eye. It sees target miles away with its vision. It's tenacious, it never gives up, flies against the storm or into the storm. It's an active bird, does not feed on dead things. It nurtures one by one personally, and the role is for the dad eagle. It's a high flyer, nested and flying in high places, yet swiftly comes to earth. Its grip is like a vice-like grip. It's loyal, it's committed to its partner for the rest of its life, and its vitality is full of life, all of its life. And I hope that was useful as an input for us to learn what are the qualities that you and I can learn from leadership, from that of an eagle. Now, let me pause here before I have one last slide to share, and then let me see if anybody has some comments to make or questions to ask. You can even chat on the use the chat window. Thank you, Vyom, for your comments. I really appreciate that. I hope you're taking down notes. You know, the problem with many of the behavioral training programs, it's great to listen to somebody speak, but the fact is, you know, I haven't taken down notes and I haven't put an action plan on the things that I want to. So I just hope that you don't do that for this session, right? When you get the recording or when it's hosted somewhere, and AB will probably tell you where it's going to be hosted, go back there and put action plans. And that when you put those action plans to learning or learning to action, and that is something that will help you. Thank you, Nitin. Nice to see. All right, so that some people have taken down notes. There's
So
somebody
some
who's
videos.
Sorry?
Some videos you are going to show?
Yes, I'm going to finish off with the video. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'll try to show you a couple of it. There's one person who wanted to talk about, I'm fearful of getting into conflict. How do you deal with that? That I think is quite true for many of us. Very true with me. I'm a very amiable person. I hate conflicts. There are some people who wouldn't even want conflicts at all. So I don't want to give a generic response to this. There are some people who hate conflict so much that they believe that conflicts is a waste of time. Consensus is better. So they get into the discussion, not to have an argument, but to come to the common ground as quickly as possible. So this person who asked me this question, I don't know whether you are somebody like that, who love to talk about it and come to the middle ground as soon as possible. And if you can do that, you don't have to get into conflict. But we also need to know that there is a problem for a lot of us with respect to conflict. And there are actually 5 different styles that you and I can play when in conflict, and that I think AB can probably do a session around that. It'll be a beautiful session, but let me quickly give you the top points. You can either accommodate during a conflict, right? So I'm fearful of the other person and therefore I accommodate all the time. What happens when you accommodate all the time? You will keep accommodating, right? And when you accommodate all the time, you lose and the other person wins. So that's not a great style. Let's look at diametrically opposite to that. When you're not accommodating, you're actually competing. And when you compete all the time, what happens? You win all the time and the other person loses. That is ineffective as well. So you can't compete all the time. You can be competing. But what's going to happen? Only one person is going to win. And this is what happens even in marriages, in homes. One person is winning all the time. That is not marriage. Marriage is when both of you win. Marriage is when, a good marriage rather, is when both of you win. Not one person winning all the time. Because at some point of time, the other person say, to hell with you. I know you're going to win, so I don't want to take part in this argument. So that's the second style. The third style is a style which is neither competing nor accommodating. That's absolute waste. Yeah, I mean, you're so passive that when in conflict, you neither give inputs, you're just trampled upon. And at some point of time, you will be so ineffective that nobody will even consult you. That is not a good style either. Then there is a style which is a good style, which is a style where you actually collaborate with the other person. You get into a conflict and you say, okay, why don't you tell me what's your problem? I will tell you then what my problem is. Let's talk about it and let's come to some consensus. All right, so you speak, I speak, let's see what middle ground we can probably, or what consensus we can do. That is called a collaborating style. That's a good style. But in a conflict, they say there's a fifth style, and that style is a style called compromising style. Now, the word compromising is not the English word compromising, but the compromising is compromising to a point where you're saying, hey, okay, I don't mind giving you what you want in this conflict, but I won't go out of this conflict without getting something out of you as well, which I want. So what is it that I want? I'm very clear. What is it that you want from me in this conflict that I'm willing to give you, but I will not go out of this conflict that I don't get something myself out of this conflict? That is a great style. So that is called a compromising style, a style called compromise. And I'm sure AB can do a session beautifully. There's a beautiful session that we do, and AB can probably do a great session. I know he does a great session there. So I hope I've answered that question for this gentleman who asked me this question on conflict. So whoever you are, find out which of these styles that you normally fall into most of the time. And when you actually fall into that most of the time, you know that's your number one style. So what happens is you get fixated on that style. And you always, in every conflict, only do that style. And then there's a problem. So you need to be flexing your style based on the situation. And when you do that, you become more effective. Okay, so let's keep going to the next question. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. What are the big insight of how you fight back the problem we face our life with the session of an email? Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. A great session amidst the depressive times. There's much that we need to think about as individual spouses, managers, leaders, as much as now they're entirely sure that we come. Absolutely, yes. That is the key. when you take an action point out of the session and work on it, you will be effective. Otherwise, it's just a beautiful session. You'll talk about it for maybe this afternoon. Over lunch, you'll forget it. And that's a problem with most of sessions when it comes to behavioral sessions. That's right. Is it good to have a short-term goal, achieve it, and then put a short-term and like move on? Oh yes, why not? That's another great session. You know, that is AB's favorite session. I'm eating into his session. When it comes to goal setting, I don't think I have anybody else other than AB that I look to. He's got phenomenal goal setting principles. You need to listen to him. And short-term goals, I think, is great. You achieve them, celebrate them, move on to the next, keep going, right? But you should ask AB to do a session for you on that. And yeah, or it's important to have a final long-term goal. It's nothing wrong in having a final long-term goal. Let the vision be there, but you need to have to break it down into small chunks. And every small chunks, when you you finish, you need to celebrate so you can have motivation to move on to the final one. And that's what you need to do. So great question there. Thank you. Let's come back. Thank you. Okay, there is a feedback form that has been sent on the chat. I think all of you should probably go there and fill it up. It's a forms, so go there. And AB has sent something to everybody. AB, you want to just talk about that?
That's the feedback form.
Oh, that's a feedback form. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just typing in. So this is designed by Pallavi. So Pallavi is a young, bright child, a management student, and she is extremely smart in doing all these things. So thank you, Pallavi, for helping with this feedback form. So the feedback form basically is there to help us understand how can we help. So the purpose is to get your thoughts. What are the things that you liked? What is that you would want us to do? So what are the skills you would want us to learn? And this is also going live on the AB Talks channel. I would request my friend Ashish to share a link where all of you can go to the AB Talks channel and subscribe to it, like it, so that whenever we do sessions such as this, it is there on the channel, and then you can refer it, learn from it, and then share it with your friends. So the entire purpose is all of us coming together in helping each one of us becoming the better version of ourselves. Like the scripture says, an iron sharpens an iron, so a person sharpens a person. Right? And I think so in times such as these, we need to come together and collaborate and then do things that are going to help us come out of the situations that we are in. So all of us, while we may be sailing in the same ocean, but we have different boats. We have different seasons in life. Right? And our entire intent is to come together and to encourage, to motivate, to inspire the EMI of life that I have always said. All of us have to pay EMI for the rest of our lives. And what does EMI stand for? Encourage, enthuse people, motivate people, and inspire people. We don't need money. We don't need anything. We only need someone to come and, pat on our back saying that, hey, buddy, you're worth it.
Yep.
Right. So thank you, John, for doing a phenomenal session. I was all glued and I made my notes on the phone. And yes, let's be an eagle. Let's soar like an eagle. And eagles don't fly with pigeons.
That's right. I think Monica has put a link. I don't know what that link is. Monica, you just want to say what that is? A YouTube link?
The YouTube link for the session.
Yes.
Oh, it's the sessions link, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I want to show you the video before we close. So let me just share that.
So while you're pulling up, Pallavi, if you can, share the feedback form to everyone. You have by mistake shared it with me in a private chat. So if you can just share that message to everyone. Thank you.
I have shared the message with everyone in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And it is now present in the video description as well.
Thank you, Ashish. You guys are just awesome. I wish I can know one
Thank
tenth
you,
of what you know.
Ashish, for adding it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So let me just
Okay.
play the video for you to see. Just tell me whether you're able to see the video in its completeness. Are you able to see the video?
No.
No?
Not yet, John. We are able to
Not
see.
yet, sir.
Why is it? Why is it?
No,
Okay, let
only
me just.
screen. Only screen is there.
Share.
No show. Video is not playing.
Okay, why
You'll
is
have to
that? It's
toggle.
strange.
You'll just have to toggle, and it will come.
Is it coming now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Flight of the eagle.
Yes. Wasn't that fascinating? Just amazing technology, man. Imagine just seeing it from the bird's point of view. That's an eagle for you. And thank you, AB, and pleasure to be with all of you this morning. And yep, so I think we've handled most of the questions on the chat. If anybody has a question on a voice basis, we can probably take it and maybe close after.
Thank you so much, John. It was fabulous as usual. And we are not going to leave you. We will have you come back and do more sessions. So this is a small group that I created sometime last week and creating an impact. Right? So I used to do sessions here and there. So I thought because we are living in times such as these, and one session can transform someone's life. One sentence can transform someone's life. One word can transform someone's life. So let us be those change agents. And who better than you to, make it, this is the start of a very formal, structured way of doing sessions.
Good.
Anything that I've done, you have always been the person to start it, right? So thank you. And we look forward to your help and your sessions in the future as well.
Sure.
So friends, if you have any questions, you can write into us. We have shared the YouTube link. It would be good if you can go and subscribe it and share it with your friends. And on that channel, we are going to have similar sessions that inspire, sessions that motivate and persuade and help us change our thinking process. So remember, the most important space is the 6 inch between the 2 ears, right? So thank you, Ashish, for your help from a technology point of view. Appreciate that. Thank you, Pallavi, for making that feedback form. So my request and suggestion is, everyone, before you leave, before you get on to do something else for the day, it's a quick Google Forms. If you can put in your thoughts, share your thoughts, that will help us. And we will continue to do sessions. Next Saturday is again a fabulous session. We have got 2 sessions next Saturday. We will have a session at the same time from 11 to 12:30. And I've also arranged a session from 5 to 6 next Saturday. And we are going to do a session on financial planning. And I'm going to have one of the best person that I know in financial planning. He is a very, 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 very senior person. And I've requested him and he has been kind enough to agree. So next Saturday, which is 27th, we'll have 2 sessions. One, we will continue on the leadership journey. And in the evening from, I think it's 5 to 6 or 6 to 7, I'll check and I'll put it on the group. So make sure that you attend both these sessions, right? So thank you once again for taking time out and spread the word, and may I have more people on the call, have more people on the group as well. So thank you, John, once again. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, AB. Pleasure as always. Thank you so much. And God bless your efforts and everything that you're doing to impact lives, and all the best with this group as well.
Thank you.
They have a question. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Amy. Your mic is muted. Okay, yeah.
Sir, my question was that usually I think that I'm low on confidence. Whenever I start something, I'm usually very low on confidence. Like if I'm on a new job, if I've been assigned a project, usually in the beginning I see myself that, or I feel that I am low on confidence. And then usually because of that, things go a bit hectic and they go wrong. And after that, I come back strong. So I always wanted to start good. Like I know that I'm a good finisher. I can pick up things from the middle when things go a little hectic. But I would want myself to perform like that from the very beginning. So can you suggest something on that?
Well, you're a Dhoni, so I don't know why you want to change yourself. I mean, you're a good finisher. And when you can finish like Dhoni, why do you want to change? Be the Dhoni, because there's nobody like you, right? The thing is, people, one is you got to understand that I have the ability to finish well. Whatever the way I start, it might start slow, it might start with low confidence, but I'm going to finish like Dhoni and I'm going to win. that one stroke is enough and I'll win. If you have that confidence in you, I don't think you should change yourself. But I see where you're coming from. Maybe you want to be more steady, like a Rahul Dravid or a Sachin Tendulkar who play that steady innings. And when required, you peak. That is also great. And so what you need to do for that is to find out what are your strengths and what are your talents, what comes naturally to you, right? You got to understand that. And once you understand that, you will be better equipped to do what you're doing with confidence. I know that I can talk, stand up and talk in front of an audience. And that didn't happen, in a few years. It happened over a period of time. But when I skilled it, when I actually put practice to it, when I looked at other people and I picked up certain things that other people are doing and put it in my own style, then I became more and more good at it. But there is one or two things, Amy, that you are good at. You need to find out what that is. And when you work in that area and when you can skill in that area and be good at that area, confidence naturally comes. And you know that is inborn. I am good at that. That will give you confidence. And therefore, that will sort of help. I hope I sort of touched the area that you wanted. All right. So was that okay, Amy, in terms of a response? Would that help?
Yes, sir, it will surely help.
Okay. So I would encourage you to do something called a strengths finder. And if you want to know more, you can either get in touch with me or you can get in touch with AB and he can tell you more about that. There's another question which says, I'm unable to express my thoughts and unable to express anything when questioned upon because less confidence. Can you help, sir? So there are two things here. Unable to express my thoughts. Is that in a group of people or is it individually when you stand up and speak? You need to, the two are different. I will try and help you with that second bit. There are times when in a group and the boss asks a question and all of a sudden, you don't know how to respond, what to respond. And you are so scared and, your knees are knocking. Your boss can't see it, but you know that the knees are knocking and you're lacking confidence. That's because of preparedness. Many of us get to meetings without preparation. We get into meetings, we get into discussions without thinking about what we're going to say if asked a question, because most of us are not good at giving instant answers. Some people are gifted with giving instant answers and they can actually speak so eloquently even without preparation. But if you go prepared into a meeting, if you know that you lack confidence and you prepare yourself saying, if my boss asks me this question, this is what I'm going to say. Have that as a piece of paper in front of you. Don't write the entire thing. Just write bullet points. If he asks me this is what I'm going to cover. If he's asked me that is what I'm going to cover. If you prepare yourself and go into a meeting, you will see your confidence really, really strong in that position. But if you go unprepared, I've been like that. I've gone to meetings unprepared and there's no answer. Somebody else has given answers and I know I should have given that, but I've lost it because I didn't prepare. So preparedness is how you gain more confidence. The other thing is unable to express my thoughts when you're standing up and speaking is a skill. Not everybody has that, but if you put effort and if you try, you will get better at it. But again, I'll come back to finding out what you're good at and then skilling that area. I hope that helped you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And my other request is for everyone who has questions, and if you're a part of the group creating an impact, so you can post your questions on that group and we will collate it. And my promise is that we will come back with all those answers. So yeah, even if we are running short of time, you feel free to put that question on the group, because that group is only created for reasons such as these: information about the programs and the schedules and all of that. And whenever we have questions, you can post. So it becomes our one point of contact. So not only in this session, but even after the session, we are contemplating, okay, how do I live the life of an eagle? I've learned something, and you would be trying to do something, and then you hit a block, you hit a hurdle. So what do you do then? So that is a group that is the reason for which we created that group. So that becomes your one point of contact, right? So anytime anyone, you or any one of your friends has questions, we don't say that we have all the answers, but we will try.
That's good. Okay, looks like we've taken most of the questions of people. AB, thanks again for having me. It's a privilege
Most
to come
welcome.
back.
Thank you so much.
To
Thank you,
everything
John.
that you host. All right. Take care. God bless.
Bye.
Keep
Bye.
in touch.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, all of you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, sir.
Welcome. Welcome.